Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Core Health Collective show. On today's show, we've got a guest that I'm really interested in talking to, which I say that all the time, obviously, because we only have amazing guests, but I'm really into experiential wellness right now, and exploring all the amazing options that I never even knew about. So our guest today is going to talk about her business and how it plays into that kind of niche in the wellness industry, which is experiential wellness. So on the show today, we've got Steph Kersta. Her company is called Hoame. It's Hoame. That's Hoame, and they are in Toronto, and they are offering experiential wellness for Torontonians, and their business. Well, their website is really cool, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about your business. So welcome to the show, Steph. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so I definitely want to pass the mic to you because I want to know all about Hoame and why you created it and who it serves.
Great question. So Hoame is a modern meditation studio. So it's located in downtown Toronto. It's quite a large space. We're at 5,100 square feet, and it's all dedicated to the practice of mindfulness. The reason why it exists, let's say, so I'm a mental health clinician. I've worked in kind of various aspects of the mental health field for over a decade. Myself and my co-founder, Carolyn Platter, she's also a mental health clinician. We're best friends. We've both worked in, hospital, community, private clinical practice. We're educators. And, we've always been looking at the evidence. So as we kind of worked through our career, we've always looked at, what's the best way to kind of help our clients? What are the best therapies that are coming out? What's the research saying? And quite a number of years ago, I would say over a decade ago, we found, we kind of went down the rabbit hole of reading about mindfulness and meditation. And the impact of mindfulness and meditation is incredible. The literature is just, I can't even get to scratch the surface on the vast amount of literature that supports the practice of meditation and mindfulness for, not only mental health, but physical health, for performance, for creativity, for focus, you name it. And so, we brought it into our clinical practice. We brought it into kind of our own personal practices for ourselves, for our wellness. And as I said before, we're educators. We did a lot of corporate wellness together. So we were doing corporate wellness talks on mental health and, stress reduction in the workplace. We always brought in meditation and mindfulness. Loved it. People loved it. People were really positive about it. And so we just started really dreaming about how can we bring this to the city in a really big and exciting way. And so that is, Hoame really kind of came out of our own clinical backgrounds and then a dream. And then in terms of the space itself, we have two studio spaces. We have a light space and we have a dark space where we do, the light space is more energizing, kind of uplifting meditations. Then the dark room is more kind of rest and restorative. We have a really cool sleep class that goes in there. We have a Himalayan soul cave, and then we also have an infrared sauna.
Okay, so you guys let's unpack this. You guys are doing a lot, but it sounds like at the core of all that you do, what are you trying to give your clients? Like, or what are you trying to take away from them? Maybe the better question. I'm not sure, but that's what I'd love to hear. No.
Really, what we wanted was, and it's interesting to talk about this kind of post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, downtown Toronto was, go, go, go. Our lives were really kind of like highly stressed, really kind of unsustainable, the level of stress that people were experiencing still to this day in various aspects. But, the level of stress that people were experiencing, the kind of go, go, go lifestyles we had was really unsustainable. And what would happen is we would see people come to, they would come to Emerge, they would come to our clinic, and they were dealing with these really kind of intense reactions to the stress. And a lot of their mental health challenges were a response to the stress. And so really where kind of the core of our services came from was, how do we reduce stress? How do we how do we give people the tools to be able to kind of combat that stress that people were kind of experiencing day in and day out? And so, it's twofold. We wanted you to come and feel really relaxed. But then also we wanted you to kind of be able to, create a community around the practice of meditation and mindfulness. And then we wanted to give people the tools to be able to continue that on in their day-to-day.
Okay. So if for someone that is racing around Toronto right now and post-pandemic, let's be optimistic and say we're actually post-pandemic. Feels like we're really close.
It does.
Yeah, and maybe by the time someone else is watching this, they'll be like, "Oh, it's totally post-pandemic." Yeah. So, if I'm that person, how do I identify that my stress has gotten to the point where I need some sort of wellness intervention, or how do I categorize it as chronic? Because I think that like you've got a great tool set to solve for this, but I don't know how to diagnose myself to walk in the front door.
Mm-hmm. I think pretty much all of us are at unsustainable levels of stress. We feel stress in kind of different levels in different ways. So, some people experience headaches, some people experience, a lot of GI upset or stomach problems. A lot of people have difficulty sleeping. People have kind of those classic burnout symptoms of just kind of feeling spent, just kind of feeling like there's nothing that they have left to give. And then we can talk about kind of some of the bigger mental health issues around that. But it's interesting when you said to me, I can't diagnose myself to know that I have to walk through the door. The beauty of Hoame and the beauty of meditation and mindfulness is that it's kind of preventative in a way as well. You don't need to be at that, burnout stage. You don't need to be at that chronic kind of stress stage. It's kind of like wellness. It's a wellness practice. So, you don't need to identify anything. You just need to come in and experience a meditation and partake in a mindful practice and then start to see those benefits. And so when we look at the literature that supports meditation and mindfulness, there is so much that it's such a good practice for us. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? We don't wait generally until something terrible has happened to go to the gym. We generally do it every day as a preventative practice. And I like to think about meditation and mindfulness as just like it should just be as like not common sense, but like it's common practice is like brushing our teeth, because it is something that we can do to prevent that bigger stuff from happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And honestly, I asked that question because I'm hoping that a listener would be able to identify with that statement of, I don't know if I should go, but if I think about it as preventative, then I definitely should go and then try it. And if they feel better, then they know it's working. And like right now in my personal life, I'm obsessed with preventative healthcare. And I think healthcare really needs to start at home, not end at the doctor's office. So I'm really glad that you guys are doing this. I want to be crystal clear, because I want people that are in the Toronto area or visiting the Toronto area to completely understand, how your offering fits. And so that way they walk in the door if they hear this podcast. Can you break down the difference for our listeners of meditation and mindfulness? Because the two words are together a lot.
Yeah. So meditation, I like to think about as kind of the seated practice of mindfulness. So mindfulness is, a good way that I've heard it described is purposefully paying attention. So we can do any practice mindfully. I can mindfully wash dishes. I can mindfully drink my coffee. I could go for a mindful walk. Really what that means is you are you're uber present and you're just in the moment and you're taking all of your surroundings. And very rarely are we actually in the present moment, right? You think about, I'm drinking my coffee, I'm reading the news, or I'm going for a walk, I'm talking on the phone or listening to a podcast or whatever it may be. And so a mindful moment is when you're actually in the moment, you're taking and you're engaging all of your senses to notice kind of what's happening around you. And you're also noticing the thoughts kind of come in and then the thoughts leave as well. Meditation is kind of more of like a formal seated practice of mindfulness. So meditation is generally seated or laying down, and it can be guided or unguided, and it's for a predetermined amount of time.
Okay. The mindfulness has probably been is a struggle for most people. Like I thought that as you were talking, I thought, yeah, I struggle with that, but I'm also aware that I think I get some moments. And then you said like go for a walk and listen to a podcast. It's like, oh no, crap. Okay, maybe I'm not as mindful as I thought, because I always do this and that.
Absolutely. And there's benefits to doing that, right? Like, if you think about any type of self-care, like podcasts and listening to podcasts can be a really good, form of self-care for us. And then I always like to think of it as like, when we stack it with other self-care strategies. So like when you go for a walk and then you listen to a podcast, it's great. Mindfulness is absolutely challenging. So I find that, in our day-to-day, we generally don't have many opportunities for mindful moments. And that's why if you look at the benefits of meditation and mindfulness, when you look at some of the research studies on it, the amount of time that people have to practice, or the amount of time that's been studied that people practice, is actually quite small. So when you're looking at some of the, incredible benefits that we're seeing, it's people who are meditating or being mindful for like 5, 10, 12 minutes per day. So it's actually not a large amount of time that you have to invest in actually getting back some of the benefits.
Okay, so let's unpack that just a little bit. Let's say it's 12 minutes. Is that, if I were to meditate and say I'm going to meditate every day, is that 12 minutes in one session to maximize that benefit? Or could it be 2 6-minute, 3 4-minute? Is there a rule of thumb for that, just so people can apply it?
There's not, like, again, every study is different. There's lots of things that we're looking at. I like to say when you can do it is a benefit. So if you can't benefit, like if you can't sit down for 12 minutes at a time, 2 6-minute sessions, it's great. You're getting in, you're working up to a larger amount. The rule that we see time and time again, we haven't really seen so much about like how we break up the time. Really what we know for sure is it's kind of the repetition or the consistency. So I would rather you meditate for like 2 or 3 minutes every day than once a week for an hour at a time. So if you can only get in 6 minutes a day, that's amazing. It's the consistency that we see the benefits more than the amount of time.
Okay. I personally started a week ago with a new morning routine. I've always had routines, but I started with a new morning routine. And the third thing on my list is meditation, and I've been doing 5 minutes. So I think I'm going to go for a bit more. I do have a question about this though, because I always say if I have a question, other people want to know too. And I think we talked about that before we started recording. So a lot of the research I've been seeing lately is, keep your phone or devices away from you as much as possible in the morning, like as long into your morning as you can. And then there's like lots of research that goes with that says meditation is a good part of a healthy morning routine, just to, set your day, be mindful right at the beginning, relax yourself, as opposed to waking up and thinking about all the stuff you have to get done, and feeling like you're already behind the proverbial 8 ball by the time, 6:30 in the morning rolls around. So the challenge that I've had, that maybe others have, is guided meditation requires me to have this device, but I don't want the device. So this morning I tried it without it, and it was fine, but I went in and out of that optimal state over the 5 minutes many times. And I'm sure once I do it more, I may be able to get better at it. But what would you say to somebody that's trying to be more mindful, meaning take the device away, but they're struggling with doing it on their own without guided? Is there other options, I guess?
Yeah. And to be honest, like I love guided meditation. I have been meditating for years and years and years and years. And I started off with I started off with an app. I started using Headspace. And, I find that if you're just starting off with the practice, I do recommend, and I recommend to all my clients as well, to start with a guided. And so whether that means you have to keep your phone on airplane mode, so you're not getting the messages, but you can still kind of click on your app and listen to something. I do recommend, especially starting off, a guided, because I find those cues, it's very easy, and I'm sure you experience, like, your mind wanders a lot. And so those cues that we have to just kind of bring our attention back to our breath, or, let the thoughts come and go, those are really, really helpful. And I find that you get more confident, you get more, not more benefit, but more, you feel better after kind of, having I don't like to say a successful session, because anytime you meditate is successful, but you feel like you had a better session for yourself. I find when, we're not kind of going in and out, or we're not feeling lost during our session. So I would say try like airplane mode is a good one. We actually just launched in January, we launched an app on the Oculus Quest, or the Meta Quest. And so it's a headset, it's a virtual reality headset. You can actually join. We have we have studio classes every day. And so I think there's 3 a day that we post. And so you're actually able to have a front row seat in our studio, whether you're not in Toronto, or, whether you're around the world. And then we also have kind of more on-demand content. So you can be meditating on a mountain, or you can be meditating on a beach. And then we actually have a lot of really cool things added, one of which just updated last week, which is a breathwork trainer. And so a lot of people are really focused on breathwork these days, because again, there's a lot of benefit, and people are finding that they are struggling with a more kind of seated guided meditation, but they're finding that more breathwork practices, more active breathwork sessions have been helpful for them. And so there's actually different breathwork sessions with a trainer. It's like a bubble that kind of guides you, that you're able to breathe alongside that trainer. So it really helps you to refine your breathwork practice as well. Then you don't have to worry about the phone. You just throw your headset on.
Oh, I love that you guys are doing that. I've been really anxiously waiting to see how these 3D headsets were going to improve health,
Yeah.
and not deter healthy living, because anytime we're talking about some form of gaming, entertainment, there's obvious negatives to that, or secondary consequences, which it could be overstimulation, being sedentary, and those lead to other tertiary consequences. So I love that you guys are at the forefront of this. So what you're saying is I could join your practice, and even though we're 2 hours apart, my car.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about having your phone.
Okay, that's good advice. So a couple other things I wanted to chat with you about is, and probably the very important, is how does it work with a community? Because I often hear people, they start businesses, with like-minded people as their customers, and they hope they create a community, and that's faced challenges over many years. But I'm finding that in the health and wellness, more the wellness side, that community seems to be happening more organically. How would you describe like the community of Hoame, and how you've seen it come together?
We have an incredible community. We were very fortunate to, we have a great community. We call them homies, that have joined the studio, who have yearly memberships. And, we, pre-COVID, but we're actually starting back again this month. We had monthly community nights where people were able to kind of get together and connect with each other. And so we had a really great community. Community was very important for us. If you see pictures of our space, we actually have quite a large kind of like main space, not the meditation rooms. And we call that the living room. And we have a beverage bar, and we have fireplaces, and, really comfy chairs. And we really wanted people to feel like they're coming home when they came to the studio. So we wanted people to feel like they could, bring a book, or, grab a tea and just chat with people. We really wanted to create that safe space of people that could connect with each other. We know the benefits, like, as I said, Carolyn and I are mental health clinicians. We know the benefits of human connection on longevity, on mental health. We know that there is there is data that shows us that we are social beings and we need to be able to connect with each other. And so creating that sense of community and creating a safe space was really important for us. And we were, very happy to see that people, resonated with that concept and people connected at our space. And it was always nice to hear people who, became friends, or people would tell us, they went for a class and started talking. And then, they had people that they would always meet for a class there. They would go out for dinner after. And that makes us so happy because it really was intentional.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. What do you think it is about people that are intentional about their wellness wanting to be around other people? What is it? What do you think that does for them? Like, what do they get from the community? Because I don't see that in other industries as much.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. It's a question I've often asked myself as well, because I honestly don't know the answer to it. But I think anywhere we go where we have shared interests, it gives us that. It's given us that grounding or that common ground that we could start to connect on. So, it is hard, and especially, when we are a more tech driven, we spend so much time on our phones, we spend so much time, behind screens. Sometimes it is hard to kind of start a conversation in person. It is hard to, to find common ground. So if you already are at a space where you both have that shared interest, it already creates that jumping off point to be able to, connect on other things as well. That's what I think. I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I've spoken to many people about it. So, if there's ever a crystal clear answer for me, I will definitely share it with you. But I think you're definitely you're on the right stack of mail, as they say, that people with common interests. And I think it's not just common interests. I think people are very proud of taking their wellness seriously, especially when you look at, the average wellness in our communities. And it feels good to be above average about taking care of yourself. And it gives you a lot of pride. And I think hanging out with people like that, only intensifies that pride. And there's nothing to be ashamed about when you're with like-minded people that you're taking care of your wellness, because no one wants to talk about wellness with somebody that just doesn't take care of their own, right? Because there's a level of guilt or shame or privacy that may not be there, so you can't be vulnerable with that person because they're not on the same journey. So I think that's what we're seeing, and I'm definitely in the community of wellness for sure, just through personal interest. And speaking of that, I have really want to get the information on one of your services. So I think you talked about the Oculus, the VR. We know that you've got the meditation component, which most people, especially that would be listening to this podcast, will understand that and go to your site and say, okay, I get that. I like the room. It looks beautiful. The common room is gorgeous. You've got something cool coming out of a tap. But I really want to know about the salt room. Yeah. I saw that and I was like, I feel like I want to be in that room.
It's very cool.
So what's the salt room about?
Yeah, so it's a Himalayan salt cave. So it's actually I mentioned this before. My dog likes to randomly bark every once in a while. So, pandemic living, I guess.
Okay, Steph, when you said your dog was going to bark, I envisioned my 100-pound Labrador barking beside me. You could barely even hear that. So
okay, that's good to hear.
Don't worry about it.
So the salt cave it's a Himalayan salt cave. So it's 6,000 pounds of pink Himalayan salt from the Himalayas that came here on a boat when we were building the studio space. And, there are lots of benefits to being in a salt cave. And so salt is anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, and anytime we spend any amount of time in an anti-inflammatory environment, it just brings down the inflammation in our bodies. We know that stress causes inflammation. Inflammation is the root of, all disease. And so anytime we spend in an anti-inflammatory environment is calming. It can have really good benefits for our body. And, really why we created it in a meditation studio is because it really does feel like you're in this cave, away from the world. And, just think about, downtown Toronto is busy. We're on Adelaide. It's very, very busy, very loud, and it's tucked way in the back. And we have these really nice beanbag chairs and these noise canceling headphones with guided meditations and different sounds. And so it really allows you the space to be able to kind of cocoon away and just kind of chill out. Essentially, it's a little bit cooler. So salt caves are designed to be cooler. We have blankets, you get all cozy, and it really is just this, it's a vehicle for a really nice mindful hour.
What are the odds that people fall asleep? Because
very high.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I literally said to myself, that would be the best power nap of my life.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And especially because it's cooler too. Like, it's always nice to sleep in kind of like a cool space. And so the fact that you're cooler, you're cozy up under a blanket, you're on these really comfy beanbag chairs. Yeah, most people will fall asleep.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, for all the listeners, if they want to look you guys up online, where are the places that you would want them to go to learn more?
So you can find us on hoame.ca is our website. So HOAME. If you want to learn more about the Oculus app or our VR app, it's hoame.app. So HOAME.app. And then you can visit us on Instagram, which is @myhome.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I was excited for this conversation, mainly around the community. So and the salt cave, I had to know about that. But I love the community that you're building. I wish you guys all the best in this post-pandemic era where people are more mindful of the need to take care of their wellness. And I hope that benefits you, your business partner, and your staff.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, take care.
Take care.